We'll start with Anthony. Right off the top, Anthony, give the folks your favorite Premier League bet this weekend.
Chelsea and Brentford, both teams to score yes at plus 100 or better. Open at about plus 115, down to about plus 108 now at DraftKings. But when you look at the numbers on these two teams, the defenses have really performed well in terms of results, in terms of not allowing goals. But they're both also overperforming massively to either what we expected in terms of expected goals or what we expected in terms of how good the team would be. Brentford were not a plus defensive team in the championship. They have played really well defensively, playing a completely different style in the Premier League, but they also have only really played one great attack, and that attack scored 3 goals and had almost 3 expected goals on them. West Ham had about 1.8 last week in that game as well. So they haven't been quite as good defensively as those XG tables will tell you. And so I'm expecting some defensive regression for them. And for Chelsea, same thing. Chelsea has not been the dominant defensive juggernaut that we saw last season. They're allowing more goals, more chances, even if it hasn't necessarily come into goals. They're pretty middle of the table in expected goals allowed with 8.6 allowed, and they've only actually conceded 3 goals from that. So expecting some defensive regression there. I think it's going to be another high-scoring affair between Chelsea and Brentford.
I'm going to go to Carroll Road. I'm going to go Brighton plus 105 at Norwich. This is Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern. You know, Brighton's metrics this season are not really even close to how good they were last season. They only have a plus 0.22 expected goal differential through their first 7 matches. But their last match against Arsenal before the international break, they were the best team on the field. Outcreated Arsenal 1.4 expected goals to 0.5, 35 shot creating actions to Arsenal's only 13, and 18 passes leading to a shot compared to only 5 for Arsenal. So they're still the team that we fell in love with last year. And Norwich, on the other hand, oh boy, they are bad. Defensively, they've allowed the most non-penalty expected goals, the second most passes into their own final third, the second lowest pressure rate, which is a problem against Brighton because they're fantastic against pressure, and the most touches in their own final third and penalty area. And offensively, it does not get much better because they've created the fewest expected goals this season at 5.63. They have the fewest shot creating actions and are in the bottom 3 of just about every single offensive metric that you look at. I have my C goals projected at minus 134. So I think there's some good value on Brighton at plus 105.
I like Leeds plus 195 against Southampton. Coming into the season, we're all very low on Southampton. We all expected Leeds to maybe take a step back, but I don't think that we figured they would take this big a step back. The season, they only have 1 win, a lot of injury issues. I expect this team to start playing better as they play some of the teams towards the bottom of the table. This game is on the road, but I still think that at plus 195, I don't understand the number too much. I think it's still creeping up. You could maybe wait this one out and get a better number. But I like Leeds to get the job done over the Saints, especially since James Ward-Prowse will be suspended for this game after picking up a red card 2 weeks ago. All right, let's move into the rest of our Premier League betting cards. I'll kick it off. I like Brentford plus 550 against Chelsea. The numbers just are close enough. Brentford's at home. Plus, Chelsea will have a lot of players returning from international break. So maybe we'll see a little bit of either squad rotation from Thomas Tuchel or some tired legs against the Brentford team where that's not a good recipe for success. I'll keep going back to Brentford at these big prices until maybe the market adjusts a little bit. This is sort of like what we saw with Leeds last year. They're better than the normal championship team coming up. I like Newcastle and Tottenham draw plus 250 and Everton I like at plus 150 against West Ham. Once again, another team that has just been really, really good and the market hasn't really adjusted to them. They are getting a lot of players back for this game after missing Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Seamus Coleman, Richarlison before the international break. Everton was able to weather that storm. They just look really good under Rafa Benitez. I'll keep going back to them until the market adjusts. And I really, really like Crystal Palace on Monday Night Football, 3 p.m. kickoff against Arsenal. Another team that I think the numbers are much better than people realize. I like what Patrick Vieira is doing with that team. Conor Gallagher has been a monster in the middle of the park for them. And look, Arsenal, yeah, they've been better, but maybe this is a bit of an overreaction to their recent purple patch. So I'll take a shot. Plus 450, Crystal Palace, Monday Night Football.
This one's pretty gross. Leicester plus half a goal at home, minus 120 against Manchester United. Yeah, Manchester United has Cristiano Ronaldo, but they've been running incredibly lucky, incredibly hot so far this season. I know Anthony has pointed this out on Twitter, but Manchester United is somehow, their metrics are somehow worse since they've gotten Cristiano Ronaldo, and they're somehow overperforming when last year they were kind of underperforming. I'm going to kind of piggyback off Anthony's both teams to score in Brentford, Chelsea. I'm going to go over 2.5 goals at plus 110. I agree with everything he said. Both defenses are really due to give up some goals. And then finally, hopefully we'll get a 0-0 draw. Michael, Newcastle plus half a goal, minus 125 at home against Tottenham. Tottenham's offensive numbers are really bad, and they're just bound to really drop one of these on the road against a really bad team. So that's my Premier League card.
Brighton on the money line. I make it minus 120. Their numbers on an attack have not been nearly as good. The shots are not quite there, but I think Norwich is just a really bad matchup for Brighton. I think Norwich is going to try to play their way out of the back like they always do. They're going to try to pass their way through Brighton. And that's really not how you beat this Brighton team at all. I think it's a recipe for disaster. So I think Brighton will win the ball high up the pitch quite a bit, and they will turn that into easier chances than they had against Arsenal and Crystal Palace in the past. I played some Palace too, plus a half at plus 130. I think the market's really just slow to catch up to Crystal Palace. Arsenal is actually the 6th best team in my ratings after last week. I'm higher than them than I think BJ is, which is a pretty rare thing, but I think the market's higher on them than I am based on what my numbers are showing. So I've only got them at minus 130. So I will take some Palace at plus 130 to avoid defeat there. I just really think this Palace defense has made some improvements, and they're much better in transition than they were last year. They have more options besides Wilfried Zaha. And then Leeds on the draw no bet line as well. You mentioned it. James Ward-Prowse is out. I know Southampton is way underperforming their expected goals for numbers. They're running like 4 goals behind, but I just really don't know where the attack comes from against this Leeds team. And Ward-Prowse is their press breaker. He's the guy who's going to, when they get past the Leeds press, going to unlock them and play that pass in behind or play that pass to create the chances. And without him, they don't really have a secondary creator. So I think it's very hard for them. He's one of the most valuable players in the Premier League. So not having him hurts in this matchup. And I think Leeds more likely to win it than not.
All right, that'll do it for the Premier League portion of our soccer picks this week. Be sure to check out our other videos as we go through cards in Europe and also give out our favorite underdog parlay for the week.